Welcome in to Beginner Spinner. This is the first session of a 4-week, 4-session indoor cycling live series. And in this first session, I'm going to take you through the very basics of indoor cycling. My name's Jen Avery. Welcome in. Let's get started with a little bit of overview on a bike setup. The first thing that you want to make sure of is that you have the right kind of bike for an indoor cycling class. There are lots of types of bikes out there, but the kind of bike that you want is a bike that is designed for spinning or indoor cycling. The next thing that I want to go over is your shoes, because there are two different ways that you can ride this bike with shoes. You can wear your regular sneakers, and in that case, that means that you can just slip your sneaker into the cage on the pedals, or you can change out your pedals to SPD and then buy SPD style shoes so that you can clip directly into the pedal. This is really recommended. This SPD style pedal and SPD style shoe is really recommended for indoor cycling because when you're able to clip into the pedal, you're able to pull and push with equal weight so that you're not constantly jarring your toes forward in your pedal. Next thing I want to go over before we start our ride, and our ride today will be about 20 minutes long. The other sessions will be 30 minutes, but today will just be 20 since we're focusing on bike setup. The next thing I want to go over with bike setup is setting up the saddle. When you set up the saddle, you want to make sure that you are leaving enough bend in your knees so that you're not overextending through your leg and potentially causing some injury to your knee and to your leg muscles. So it's really important that you set up your saddle correctly at the right height and forward or back enough so that you have the right symmetry for your body. The first thing that I recommend you do is just stand next to your saddle. And almost always, usually where your hip bone is a good place to start situating the saddle. Is it going to be perfect? Probably not, but it's a good place to start. So on your spin bike, you'll have some options here to loosen or tighten some pins in order to raise or lower your saddle. So you want to go ahead and make sure that you have the saddle at right about hip bone level to begin. That's a good rule of thumb. You'll also notice on your bike that there will be a pin so that you can move your saddle back or forward. We're going to deal with that in just a moment, but first let's start with the height. Make sure that your pins are all tightened down before you attempt to get on the saddle. But once you bring the saddle to hip level, let's go ahead and clip in or climb into the cages. And let's just sit here for a moment and see how it feels sitting at this level. The first thing that I want you to do is extend one leg fully and then see how you can bend, if you can bend that knee, right? So you never want the height of the saddle to be so high that you're sort of pulled right and left as you're riding, right? You want to make sure that you can maintain a bend in the knee for the entire rotation as you are cycling, right? So if that is good, right, and that feels good, then that's a perfect height for you. However, if your knee is bending too much and you feel like you're sort of crouching in the knee, you want to maybe raise your saddle a little bit higher. After that is accomplished, the next thing you want to do is adjust how forward or how back the saddle is. Now, this is going to be a really personal matter, really depending on the length of your torso and how much distance is between your body and your arm reach. a lot of factors play in here. So one thing to keep in mind when it comes to the correct position of your saddle in terms of how forward it is or how back it is, some of it is preference, but a good rule of thumb is to make sure that when you rest your hands into position 1, which we'll go over in a minute, which is just your normal position here, arms are close together, elbows are tucked, that you do have a nice bend in your elbows. So you don't want to be extended fully in the upper body, but you also don't want to be crouched so close that you're sort of leaning over the handlebars. You want to make sure that your saddle is positioned in a way that you can easily reach for the handlebars and have a nice slight ginger bend in the elbows that feels limber, right? And easy. Good. Another thing to keep in mind is that when you are on the bike and you're having those full rotations in the legs, you want to make sure if you stop here at 180, that your knee is clearly over your ankle and is not extending over your toes. So if you're too far forward, when you look down, you'll see that your knee is going over or might even be equal with your toes. You don't want that. That will put extraneous pressure on your knee, which is not good for anybody. You want to make sure your saddle is far enough back so that you can slide your hips back and your knee comes into alignment pretty much with your ankle when your feet are aligned at a 180 degree angle here. Right? So take a look at that and make sure, because that's going to give you the most power through the legs, is that alignment. As you take your rotations, you look down at those rotations and make sure all things are properly aligned and in place. When it comes to setting up your handlebars, once you get your saddle set up, handlebars is really a matter of preference, right? Some people like to have their handlebars really high, and this can be wonderful, especially if you have some low back tensions, right? Setting your handlebars up high will allow you to stay more upright when you're in the saddle, which might be just right for you. Other people, like to set their handlebars a bit lower so that they can become more aerodynamic, especially when we're in a race pace position, which I'll explain later. Others like to keep it in a more neutral position, and I like a more neutral position for the handlebars. So you can go ahead and play with the height of the handlebars and see what is appropriate for you. The only things to keep in mind when it comes to handlebar adjustment is making sure that you have that nice lithe bend in the elbow, right? So that when you are in position 1 here, it feels like an easy grip. You're not reaching out, you're not reaching down, you're not reaching up too much, right? You found a way to grasp the handles that feels natural for your bike setup. And it's really important to take the time to set up the bike before you get started with any spinning class. I have my bike set up already, so I'm done, I'm good, I'm ready to go. But you might need a little extra time to get those settings right. Perfect. While you get your bike set up, while you make sure all the pins are tightened and everything is aligned, I just want to say for this first ride today in our very first beginner spinner class in this series, I'm going to use the opportunity during our 20-minute ride to go over hand positions and body positions that are usual in a spinning class. So that by the time you end this spinning class, not only will you get a great workout, which is great, that's what we came for, but you'll also have a lot more knowledge about indoor cycling. So that for any class that you take with anyone, you'll probably be able to pick up on those common cues that are used so that you can feel successful and confident in your spinning classes. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and let's get started with our very first ride of beginner spinner. I'm going to go and start the music and then we'll hop on our bikes and go. I recommend having a towel handy and a water bottle. You'll probably need it for any ride that you take in indoor cycling for sure. Go ahead and clip into your paddle, into your pedals, and situate the hips in the saddle. You can reach down and begin to add resistance onto the flywheel by turning the pin to the right. That will add more resistance. Turning the pin to the left will lower the resistance. You want to find a resistance level that is right around a 4 or a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. Good. I'll explain that numbering pattern later as we go. But for now, just begin to let the ride unfurl. Starting to get situated on the saddle here, starting to feel and sensate what it feels like. Just let the legs go. Thinking about full and complete circles here. Smooth, full circles. Good. Driving through the ball of the foot, but also pressing the heel down as well. Thinking about pushing and pulling. Good. Now, where your hands naturally fall on the handles is often called position 1 for the hands. The hands are fairly close together. The elbows are bent. The shoulders are rolled back and down. Position 1. Is often a seated position in the body as well. Just getting the feel of the bike and the body here. It's a nice quick pace between 80 and 90 RPMs. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's the rhythm of the legs. Good. Staying in the saddle as we begin our ride. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very heavy, let's adjust our resistance to around a 5 or 6. That would be a moderate piece of road. That means you feel the resistance, the grind of the road. Let's find a cadence here of around 80 RPM. Now my wheels in motion and my windows open with the wind blowing in my hair. I'm driving down the highway, gonna do this my way. I can feel. Relax the shoulders down. Keep that strong pace right here. Nice and smooth. Slow down the pace a little bit here. We're going to move from a slower cadence or rhythm with our feet, legs, to a faster cadence. Good. 1, 2, 1, 2. We're going to pick up the pace here. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hold that faster pace. Hold that stronger pace. Keep it coming. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2. Right around 90 RPM if you have an odometer. And let's scale it back to around 80. Take a breather here. Good. I like to call these saddle pickups. We're seated in the saddle, and we're changing our cadence of our pace. I'm not heading for the stars, driving down this boulevard. Filling the lungs with breath. We have one more pickup coming up. We're keeping our resistance, but increasing our pace. Let's go. Pick up that pace. You're not sprinting. You're just grinding a little harder. Come on. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. You feel the texture of the road on that grind wheel. Right to the end of the song. Keep going. Good. Back it off. Slow the pace. Excellent. Right now, your hands are still in position 1. If you take them wider, this is called position 2. On that long edge of the handle is position 2. Let's find position 2 here as we add some resistance. On a scale of 1 to 10, you're around a 7. So your legs begin to slow. And when they do, your hips slide back in the saddle. Reach those hips low, but keep a strong pace here. Good. Here we're going to climb out to position 3 with the body, taking our hands out to the tops of the horns and climbing up out of the saddle. We're going to stay here for a while. This is called position 3 with the hands and the body. Also called a climb out of the saddle or a standing climb. Couple things to notice here. Take the weight out of your arms by scaling your body back and reaching your hips to the back of the wall. The back of the room, I mean. Those hips are reaching back. Open your chest. Roll your shoulders back and down. Lighten the arm. Make sure you have enough weight on the flywheel so that you can feel the texture of a road. If you'd like to, reach down and add a 7.5 or an 8 on a scale of 10. Keeping your head in alignment with your neck. Your cadence is 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Ease it back into the saddle. Shave off the weight back to a 6. We're going to head back up a hill here, doing some hill intervals. Go ahead and reach down, find a 7 or a 7.5. And you might not know what that means for you today, but you will as time goes on. And it will change also as your skill changes with indoor cycling and as your endurance improves. Good. Right now we're in a seated position. Hands are in position 1. Let's move our hands to position 2. We're going to stand upright, not in a climb at third, but here we're in position 2. This is sometimes called a run, or a jog, or even a standing climb, depending on the resistance on the wheel. In this position, our body weight is centered. Our chest is upright and proud. Our shoulders are right over our hips. Don't forget to pull up as well as push down in this rotation. This is called position 2 with the body. From here, we're going to ease back to the saddle and then smoothly come back to a run. Try it with me. Ease back, 2, 3, 4, and run. 2, 3, ease back, 2, 3, and run. Count it out in your head. Down for 1, 2, 3, 4, and rise. Now, oftentimes, stay with it. Indoor cycling instructors like to use the rhythm of the music to motivate the ride. So hear it. Hear the music. Most music goes with an 8 count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We like to choreograph movement with music. This is our last song of work coming up. We're going to stay in the saddle. We're going to come into our final position, which is a race pace shape. This bar, these bars in the middle of your handle, are the race bars. And when you come down into them, you're in race pace. You're going to lower the upper body, resting the forearms onto the handles, holding onto the center handlebars here, and becoming aerodynamic. Make sure you have around a 6 on your flywheel. You can hear the increase of tempo. We're going to pick up the pace. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hear the swell of the music. Match your legs. Let's go. Pick it up, pick it up. Your first taste of a Cadence seated sprint. Keep it going. Breathe. You're almost there. In 4. In 3. 2. 1. Back off that cadence. Sit up. Shake it out. That was the work of a seated, cadence-driven sprint. We're gonna do it again. Catch your breath. When you're sprinting, make sure you have enough weight on your wheel so that you're not bouncing. Dial it in. Let's go. Pick it up. Doesn't have to be super fast. One, two, one, two, one, two, one, two. Dig into it. Breathe. Keep it going. Take a break whenever you need one. Yes, you can do it. This is our last bit of work. Come on. 4, 3, slow down. Yes. Shave the resistance off that wheel. Coming down to about a 3 or a 4. It feels light. So light. You keep control of your legs. Always. This is our cool down. Let the heart rate lower. So proud of you. If that was your first ride ever, phenomenal. When you're ready, sit it up in the saddle. Roll the shoulders back. Inhale the arms up. One more time. Good. Take one arm across the chest for a shoulder stretch. Dip that ear to the opposing shoulder. And switch it up. Arms behind the back, opening the chest, clasping the hands, slowing the leg. Position 1, lift up, dip the heels down to stretch the calf. And switch side. Taking one foot down, step on out of your pedals. Taking your right leg to the saddle. Forward fold. Swinging the right leg behind you, quadricep stretch. Squeeze those knees together. Take the right leg across the left knee, sitting back into the hips. And let's switch sides, left leg onto the saddle, folding over that leg. Swinging that left leg behind, quadricep stretch. And let's cross that left leg over your knee, setting the hips low. Rolling all the way up. Let's take a big inhalation. Coming down, hands on knees. Nice. Rolling up the upper back and exhaling, flattening the back. Rolling up halfway and flattening. Rolling all the way up here. Taking your right leg behind you, pushing your heel to the floor for a calf stretch. Rotating those hips forward. Good. Stepping that right leg forward. Stepping the left leg back, calf stretch. Getting into the soleus by rolling those hips forward, feeling it in that leg. Stepping forward. Well done. This was your first ride ever. Congratulations to you. You now know all the basics of a cycling ride. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you next week for our full 30-minute ride.